accounting for overheads. Another important topic in your paper. Accounting for overheads. Accounting for overheads. Accounting for overheads. Students, is a very important topic for your exam again, right? Most of these areas will be tested, right? Did you study accounting overheads in your school syllabus? Did you study overhead? No. Okay, fine. What is overheads? Overheads are indirect cost. Overheads are indirect cost. Did we study indirect cost under cost classification? We studied. Okay. Indirect cost includes three things: indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expense. So indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expense, indirect expense. Is it clear? Is it clear, students? Now, if it is a direct cost, it is easy to account. But indirect cost, why direct cost is easy to account? Because it is directly identifiable from the final output. Direct costs are easy to account. Why? Because it is directly identifiable from the final output. So 1 unit, how much? You got my point? But when it comes to indirect cost, we called it as overheads. If something is top of your head, out of control, right? That's why we called it as overhead. Beyond our control, uncontrollable cost, right? Actually controllable, but you cannot clearly identify, right, how much this cost incurred for 1 unit. Let's take electricity in this example, right? Electricity. This electricity AC is used by ACCA classes. The ground floor education, the study room, study center, okay, and CA and CS, CMA, all these courses we use the electricity. How to identify management accounting program, how much electricity is used? Is it easy? It is not easy. So we are trying to find out a system in order to identify how much of indirect cost per unit, right? But this system is not correct. In the modern world, this system has so much of limitations, right? Later, when you are studying performance management, F5, you will criticize these methods. But still at the basic level, we need to study how to account indirect cost. How to account indirect cost. Is it clear? So write down first point. Absorption costing method, first point. Absorption costing method used to account overhead cost. Overhead cost. Underline the word absorption costing. Underline the word absorption cost. Take a separate color pen. This is for your understanding only, right? Not in your syllabus. If you don't have separate color pen, then write down somehow. Write it down. Second point. Absorption costing method. Absorption costing method itself have so many limitations. Itself have so many limitations. And criticized in the modern environment. And criticized in the modern environment. Right? Don't ask why. Once I discuss with this topic, you will realize what are the problems we have in this traditional method. Right? There are so many judgments. There are so many judgments, so many assumptions we used, which is totally unrealistic. Totally unrealistic. Okay? Right. Now write down a small subheading. Absorption stages. See, I told you, overheads can be identified from the final output. Overheads can be identified from the final outputs based on absorption method. Yes or no? So absorption is the method that we use to identify what is the unit indirect cost. So when we are using absorption costing method, there are different stages we need to follow, right? So number one, write it down. Number one, identification of overhead. Identification of overheads. Number one, identification of overheads. Number two, allocation of overheads. Number two, allocation of overheads. Don't ask what is allocation, I'll tell you later. Right, we're going to discuss these steps in detail. Number three, apportionment of overhead. Number three, apportionment of overheads. Number three, apportionment of overhead. Number four, reapportionment of overhead. Number four, reapportionment of overheads. Reapportionment of overhead. There are different methods we are going to discuss under reapportionment method. Number one is direct method. So we can reapportion under direct method. Number two, we are going to use step down method. So we can reapportion overhead using step down method. Number three, we are going to reapportion overhead using reciprocal method. We are going to reapportion overhead using reciprocal method. All these methods are reapportionment methods. Then fifth step, overhead absorption. Overhead absorption. OAR, overhead absorption. So finally we need to absorb the overhead. Finally we need to absorb the overhead. There are two types of overheads. One is blanket overhead absorption. Blanket OAR. I'll teach you later. Number two is departmental OAR. Departmental OAR. Sorry. Departmental OAR. These are the steps. So, what is the starting point of identifying unit overhead? Identification of overhead. What is the end point? Absorption. So, after step number 5, we know what is the unit overhead cost. What is the unit indirect cost. Is it clear? Did you all copy this? Right. Now write down number 1. Allocation of overheads. Allocation of overheads. Step number 1. Allocation of overheads. Allocation of overhead. What do you mean by the term allocation of overhead? Like this, students. Let's take, I came here. There is a bike that is used by the company purpose. So it is using by different purposes, right? Marketing team also used, and back office operations, photocopy, all those people will use. Study center, the people who are handling that, they also use that bike. So the petrol is indirect cost. You can't identify this out of this petrol amount, how much goes to ACCA, M2, F2. Can't say, right? But assume like this. I came here for a month and that bike is given to me. And So we will give you, we will put petrol and only you going to use, no one else, right? So this particular petrol cost is incurred only for management accounting. Yes or no? Yes or no? You got my point? So there are certain, okay, another example. How many of you are living in a rented house? Rented place. Electricity is included or electricity is excluded? Excluded. You need to pay electricity. Do you all have separate electricity meter? See. So if you are living in a rented house, in that rent house, you have a separate electricity meter. Then that electricity cost goes to you only. Yes or no? There are certain indirect costs we can directly identifiable from specific department, production department. So let's take, we have a factory, production department. For that factory, we have a separate electricity base. So whatever the electricity cost incurred for that production only, yes or no? Yes or no? So when we know that cost is directly specific for that particular activity, we can directly allocate that. Because we know, okay, 5,000 petrol cost for management accounting. Directly we can, there is no relationship with CA, there is no relationship with CS, there is no relationship with CL. You got my point? So those type of overheads we can directly charge to specific department. That is what we call allocation. Understood? Understood? So write it down under that. When indirect cost is specifically, when indirect cost is specifically identifiable, when indirect cost is specifically identifiable over a production or service department, a production or service department. See, what is production department? The department who produce goods or service. What is service department? The department which provides service to production department. If you go to a factory, factory is a production department, yes or no? Within the factory, you have a canteen, service department. Right? That canteen is not selling goods for outsiders, only for the factory. So it's a facilitating department, okay? Service and production. So any cost directly incurred for that production or service department, we can allocate. We can allocate. Understood? Understood? For example, write down. Only factory located in the building then the rent fully charged against the factory. Then the rent fully charged against the factory. Clear? Understood the meaning of allocation? Right. Now put a subheading. Apportionment, number 2. Apportionment, number 2. Right. What do you mean by the term apportion? There are certain indirect costs you can directly, you can directly, you can't mention, okay, this particular cost goes for this particular department. It is general. For example, here electricity. Right. At Arivu, electricity is what? Right. For Arivu, electricity is a common cost. Yes or no? ACCA also use that. Marketing people also using. So marketing department, academic department, and HR department, finance department, operations department, all these people do that. Back office also using. Right. Now who used more, who used less? We know. No. We can't say like that. You got my point? For example, if someone is telling no, back office people is doing photocopy and all, they only using more electricity. But they are not using AC. We are using AC. You got my point? Therefore, you can't just guess and put values. Then we need to apportion. That is what called apportionment. When you can't do allocation, you should do what? Apportionment. At the time of doing apportionment, suitable bases need to be used to apportion. Yes or no? Yes or no? Let's take your mother cooks some non-veg, tasty non-veg. Okay? You all are there. Who will get more pieces? Elder brother or the youngest one? Youngest or elder? Youngest. Youngest will get more. Okay, fine. Now, if the elder brother is working somewhere else and he came for holiday, who will get more? Elder brother. Is that apportionment is fair? Huh? Now the younger one started to cry. Oh, you are putting more pieces for brother, elder brother. You are not giving to me also. Right. So when you are doing an apportionment, there are bases. When elder brother and younger brother both are in the house, younger brother get the preference. When elder brother is working out of the city and when he came in the holiday, if you all goes right, yes or no, right? That is a factor we used, right? Likewise, when we are doing apportionment, we should use suitable basis to apportion. Right? Just forget about the food. Now come to the consideration of Arivu. Electricity, based on the square feet, flow area. If the flow area is high, consume more electricity. If the flow area is low, you consume less electricity. So flow area is one of the bases we can use to apportion. Yes or no? Or else kilowatt. If we can able to identify the kilowatt separately, that is also a base. Yes or no? Fine. Now I am criticizing this absorption costing method. See, this AC is not working. AC is not working. But only 2 bulbs are there in this classroom. Okay. Let's take the photocopy machine. How many machines we have? Maybe 5. Right? And 2 computers. And the laminating machine also. You know laminating, right? Laminating machine also. Right? And TV also. But the space is very less. Is it fair to charge more overhead here? You got my point, the problem. We are charging, we are portioning overhead based on the flow area. Right? The small space might consume more electricity. Practical problem, right? Go and see the back office space. Very small. But more electrical items. Here, let's assume only 2 bulbs. Is it fair? That's why I am criticized. You got my point. So write it down, apportionment. Indirect cost, which is directly, indirect cost, which is directly not identifiable. Directly not identifiable, then it should apportion. It should apportion using suitable basis. Using suitable basis. Suitable basis. Within bracket write down fair basis. Within bracket write down fair basis. What do you mean by fair basis? That should be more fair. Yes or no? Flow area, we feel it's fair. But cost accountant need to apply his judgment, whether it is right or wrong. And if I am a cost accountant here, if they are using electricity portioning using flow area, I should ask a simple question. It is wrong. Why? Because only the gagematics here, this is not working. Right? When we are comparing the electricity products available here and the out that particular room, so better to go with kilowatt rather than going with the flow area. Right? Let's take a washroom. How many washroom we have? 2, and the corridor. Huh? But what is the electricity equipment we use? Only 1 bulb. Yes or no? Yes or no? But that have more space capacity. Think about the kitchen here. It have more space. Right. Let's take only 2 bulbs are there. If I allocate using like that, right, is it correct? No. Service or service department, kitchen is a service department. Service department will get more overhead. Yes or no? Therefore, always we should use a suitable fair basis to apportion the overhead. Okay. So example, write down electricity. Electricity, kilowatt. Number 2, example, canteen cost. Number 2, canteen cost. Canteen cost. Number of employees. Canteen cost is what? I'm giving basis and the cost. Canteen cost, what is the basis? Number of employees. Electricity, what is the basis? Kilowatt. Is it understood? Right. Now, let's do example number 1. Just concentrate the way that I am doing. Right. Don't try to do now. I'll give you time to copy later. But concentrate. Okay. Heading, write down. First, write down a heading. Overhead analysis sheet. How we call this? Overhead analysis sheet. Overhead analysis sheet. Overhead analysis sheet. I'll draw an overhead analysis sheet. This format we use generally to follow the steps, all 5 steps. Right? Don't copy now, I'll give time. First, overheads. Second, basis for apportionment. If you are doing apportionment, you need suitable basis. Yes or no? So that is what called basis for apportionment. Okay. Then in this question, how many departments we have? How many departments we have? 4 departments. What are the departments? 2 production, assembly and finishing. 2 service, maintenance and canteen. Altogether, how many departments? 4 departments. So, first, assembly. Assembly is production or service? Production. Number 2 is finishing. Finishing is production or service? Production. Canteen and maintenance. Let's take maintenance. I put as main and canteen. Then total. Is it clear? This is what we call overhead sheet. This is what we call overhead sheet. Right. I'll give you 5 minutes. Copy this. Not 5 minutes, 1 minute. Copy this. Copy this overhead sheet first. Copy this overhead sheet first. Is it clear? Now read this question. LS Limited has 2 production departments. One is assembly, 2 is finishing. And 2 service departments. One is maintenance, one is canteen. The following are budgeted cost for the period. Therefore, all these are indirect cost. All these are indirect cost. Or else I can say what? Overhead cost, which is not directly identifiable from the final output. Therefore, I need to apply absorption method to find out the unit cost. Is it clear? So what is the first step? Allocating overheads. Now see, indirect material how much? 20,000. Clear? Rent how much? 15,000. Electricity how much? 10,000. Machine depreciation how much? 5,000. Indirect labor how much? 16,520. Is it clear? All these are indirect cost. If I take the additional information, it says indirect labor hours given, area given, kilowatt consumed given, machine value is given, staff, number of staff given, indirect labor budget and indirect material budget given. So indirect material, they clearly said this 20,000 is allocated in this way. Assembly how much? 7,000. Finishing how much? 8,000. Maintenance how much? 3,000. Canteen how much? 2,000. Which means we clearly know how much of material used by each department. Therefore, this comes under allocation. Understood? Because we know how much they consumed. But if I take indirect labor, 16,520. How much for assembly? 1,600. How much for finishing? 2,200. How much for maintenance? 11,200. How much for canteen? 1,500. This is also allocation. Understood? Now let's come to this one is done. So I'll mark like this. Indirect labor is done. Indirect material is done. Rent 15,000. Did they give the rent cost separately? These two given in the dollars amount. Did they give rent cost? No. So rent is what then? Apportionment. This is what? Apportionment. Electricity. Did they give separately? Did they give separately? No. Therefore, it is also apportionment. Machine depreciation 5,000. Did they give the depreciation? No, they gave machine value only. Therefore, it is also apportionment. Is it clear? Understood? So, wherever it's possible, write it down. Indirect material 20,000. Indirect material 20,000. And indirect labor 16,520. And indirect labor 16,520 directly allocated to specific departments. Directly allocated to specific department. Is it clear? So within bracket write down allocation. Within bracket write down allocation. Next point. Rent, electricity and depreciation. Rent, electricity and depreciation. Rent, electricity and depreciation. See, rent is 15,000. Electricity is 10,000. Machine depreciation is 5,000. Not directly allocated to specific department. Not directly allocated to specific department. Not directly allocated to specific department. So we need to apportion suitable basis. So we need to apportion suitable basis. We need to apportion suitable basis. See overheads. Now let's see the overhead analysis sheet. How we going to do that, right? Always the initial point, we take the allocated part. Okay. So let's take indirect material first. How much indirect material? How much, students? Indirect material 20,000 total. See the way that I am doing. Don't write. I'll give time to copy. Indirect material how much? 20,000. Allocation, no apportionment. Allocation. So the basis is allocation. So we don't find out the basis because it is allocation and it's given. So assembly how much? 7,000 given in the question. Finishing how much? 8,000 given in the question. Maintenance how much? 3,000 given in the question. Canteen how much? 2,000. So total 20,000. Understood? Now let's move to indirect labor. I'll first take the allocated one. Na? Indirect labor. Otherwise you can do other things and later you can come to this one. The order you can change. No worries. Indirect labor total how much? 16,520. Allocation, no apportionment. Allocation. So how much assembly? 1,600. How much finishing? 2,220. How much maintenance? 11,200. How much canteen? 1,500. Understood? Understood? Copy this first. Copy this first. Don't forget the steps. First step is what? Allocation. That is what we did now. Copy this. What is the second step? What is the second step? After allocation, what is the second step? First is identification. See, I'll tell you the steps. First step is what? Overhead, absorption system. First step is what? Identification of overhead. See, all these are identified. So first step is done. Yes or no? Second step is allocation of overhead. We allocated. What is the third step? Apportionment of overhead. So there are three overheads we need to apportion. We need to apportion. So what are those three overheads? Rent and electricity and machine depreciation, because we cannot directly identify, right? So let's take rent. What is the best apportionment method? What is the basis? Best basis. Here they gave basis. What is the best basis for rent? Exactly, very good. Square meter area. So square meter is the best one for rent. So if I take the square meter, assembly, how many square meters? 1000 square meter. Finishing, how many square meter? 2000 square meter. Maintenance, how many square meter? 500. Canteen, how many square meter? 500. So concentrate how we are going to apportion. Rent cost is 15,000. Rent cost is? I speak. Rent cost is? 15,000. Total square meter, how much? Square feet? 4,000. Clear? For assembly, how much? 1,000. What is the value? This is for assembly. How much? 3,750 for what? Assembly. Now, for finishing, 15,000 is your total rent. 4,000 is total square meter. How much of square meter for finishing? 2,000 square meter. So what is the answer? 500. Now you understood how to apportion? Yes or no? Right. Now using the same method, I am going to write rent. What is the basis we used here? What is the basis we used here? Flow area. Flow area. Concentrate. If I take the flow area, it's given 1,000, 2,000, 500, 500. Is it clear? Now I can summarize this, right? How? 5, 5, 20, 10. Yes or no? Make it very simple format. Then it is easy for you. Okay? Simple format. Right? Otherwise you can take it everything. Right? Whatever you feel fine, you can take it. So now, flow area, you always write the basis, allocation, apportionment basis also. That ratio to be given. Then only it's easy to understand. Assembly, what is the value we calculated? 15,000 divided by 4,000 into 1,000. 3,750. Finishing, 7,500. Now calculate for maintenance and canteen. 1,800 and for canteen. Okay, the total to given 15,000. I just forgot to write 4,000. Is it clear, students? Is it clear? Understood apportionment? Okay, now let's move. Next one. Rent is also done. I'll mark apportionment in green color. Rent is also done. What is the next cost? Electricity. How much? 10,000. So electricity, what is the basis? Exactly the kilowatt. Right? So let's take electricity. Kilowatt per hour. So kilowatt, if I take, it's given 2,750, 4,500, 1,975 and 775. Is it clear? 2,750, 4,500, 1975, 775. And the total electricity cost is given 10,000. Now finish it off. Same as this.
Kilowatt numbers. Because it's 10,000 kilowatts.
Okay, then it is easy for you. Right, so you can take it. Very good. Good, smart. 2,750, 4,500, 1,075, 775. Copy this. Copy this. Rent also done. Copy this. If you total it up, it is 10,000. So directly you can take it. Otherwise, what is the long lengthy method? You should take 10,000 divided by 10,000 multiplied by 2,750 equal 2,750. So be smart. If you know that the amounts are same, directly you can take. Don't waste your time. And one more thing I'll tell you. I'm teaching with the correct formats and all. In your exam, all these things are not required. You need answer. Right? Exactly. But this is important for performance management. So when you are writing in your exercise book or studying, do things properly. When you are practicing, take a piece of paper and just compute and get the answer. You got my point? Don't write the basis is allocation, apportionment. You won't get marks for steps. Right? But when you are moving to PM, you should have knowledge how to do it. Because if you go to a workplace, you need to follow the formats. Understood? Right. Next one. What is the next expense? Machine depreciation. How much? 5,000. Machine depreciation. What is the suitable basis, students? Machine value. Very good. So machine depreciation. Machine depreciation. How much? Okay, what is the value? Machine value. Sorry. Basis is machine value. So machine value, if I take 45,000, 35,000, 11,000 and 9,000, I'll take like this. 45, 35, 11 and 9. That is also same, right? Machine cost is how much? Machine depreciation is 5,000. Get the values? Exactly correct. Because it is 100, you can take it. Yes. 45%, 35%, 11% and 9%. Correct. Machine depreciation, how much? Assembly, how much? Assembly, finishing and maintenance, canteen. So assembly, I got the answer 2,250. Is it correct?
Yes.
Assembly and finishing 1,750. Is it correct? Maintenance 550. Canteen 450. Is it correct? Very good. Very good, Khan. So concentrate, students. If you have space, just mark like this. See, these two, step number 1, yes or no? Sorry, step number 2, identification of overhead is step number 1. It is given in the question itself. This 3 is step number 3. What is step number 3? Apportionment. Is it clear? Up to now, is it clear? Now let's make it the total. Assembly column, total how much? Assembly column, total how much? 7,000? 7,000, 8,000? Okay, sorry. What is the total of assembly? 17,350. Very good. And for finishing?
23,970.
23,970. Maintenance? 18,600. Canteen? Canteen 6,600. And total column 66,520. I got the answer. 66,520. Students, identification of overhead understood, allocation of overhead understood, apportionment of overhead understood. First three steps understood. Let's take a break.